And welcome back, Professor Almeida, jpalmeida.com, with another Access how-to video. Now, in a past video, I gave you a quick primer on Access, but you're probably thinking to yourself, wait, hold on a second. You already had a database. How do I start one from scratch, and how do I create my tables? Well, I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So once you've launched Access and you see this screen here, you're going to click on blank database. You're going to choose where you want to save it, and you're going to give it a name. So I'm going to call this Viking Publishers, in keeping with the example of the book publishing company. I'm going to click on create. So this is what a brand new database looks like in Access. You see that a new table has already been started for me, and I'm in datasheet view. This looks a lot like Excel, doesn't it? Up here, these columns, these are your fields. They will contain specific pieces of information, and your rows here are going to be your individual records. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. This will be our customer table. So the first thing I want to do is to rename the ID field, and I'm going to call it customer ID. Now, the other important thing I need to consider is that the customer ID field also needs to be changed from this data type here. It's set to auto number by default because Access will gladly assign IDs for you. But if you're going to type it in yourself, you do need to change the data type. So if you're in the Table Tools Fields tab and in the formatting group here, you're going to change the data type to short text. Now, the default field size is 255 characters, but again, you need to decide how many characters your customer ID will be, and we're just going to set it to 5 here. So it's set to 5, and now we begin to add the other fields. So where it says click to add, I'm going to choose short text. We're going to rename this to last name, and then I will hit the down arrow key. So again, you can go back and fix the field size if you want. So we'll set this to 50 characters. Okay, click to add, short text, first name, hit the down arrow key. Okay, so again, you can come back here, set it to 50 if you want. Click to add, short text, street, down arrow key. Click to add, short text, city, down arrow key. So do you see the pattern here? And now I am building my table here. This time I want to create a field for amount due. So I'm going to use the currency data type. And then again, I want a field for how much they paid. And lastly, how much for returns. And that's it. I've now built my table. I'm going to go ahead and save this table, and I can click on the save button here in the quick access toolbar, and we're going to call this table customers. Now there's another way in which you can design your table, and that's by switching over to design view, and this is what it looks like. Now I can also quickly go through and change the properties for each field. You'll also notice that for customer ID, you see this little icon right here. This is what's called the primary key. Now, each customer is going to have a unique ID number, much in the same way as a college student would have a student ID number that they would have to memorize for their entire college career. So this is the primary key here. You see the data type is short text, and then I can just go down the line here. Last name, again, you see right here that I set to 50 characters. First name, street, and right here I can quickly modify the field size. You can use whatever you want. So you can see what I'm doing here. Now for state, I'm going to set the field size to 2 because I'm using the 2-letter abbreviation. So again, you can see state is set to 2. Postal code, I'm going to set this to 5. And then with these, you could choose what you want to do with decimal places and whatnot, but you know what? Actually, let me do this. So if I want to set it to 2 decimal places, I'm going to use this drop-down menu right here, or you could also type in 2. Okay, so again, decimal places, set to 2 decimal places, and then same thing for returns. Now, because we've made changes to the table structure, we have to resave it again. Okay, so I went ahead and I saved this. Let's switch back to datasheet view and let's add some records. Now, with a blank table, you can just go ahead and type it in directly, but if you have many records here, it's always a good idea to use this button down here, new blank record. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and type in the first customer ID, and we're just going to make something up here. So I'm hitting tab as I'm going in between. Now, one of the other design considerations you need to make is how you're going to do street addressing. Are you going to use an abbreviation for street, avenue, drive, and so forth? Are you going to use the period or not? So you need to make that decision at the very beginning. And as soon as I hit tab, after the very last field, this record will automatically save. I don't need to do anything else. That customer has been saved, and then I can move on to the next record. Now, keep in mind, anytime you edit a record, you need to be very careful that you don't accidentally overwrite something. Access requires a lot of precision, and it can be pretty unforgiving. So do keep that in mind as you are working with records. Now, sometimes your columns may not entirely fit. And let me give you an example of this. What do you do in this case? Well, you can use a similar technique to Excel, where if you select all of the columns, you could apply a best fit, and you do so by going in between the 2 columns. So this is going to apply to all of them because I've selected them. And I'm going to double click right here where you see this 2-headed arrow. I'm going to double click, and you'll notice now you can see everything. Okay, and once again, because you've changed the structure by auto fitting, you do need to remember to save your table. So anyway, I hope this helps. If you like what you see, feel free to hit that like and subscribe buttons. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll keep making more of these. Thanks for watching.